The Man with the Yin-Yang Eyes. Episode 5. It's me again, this guy with yin-yang eyes named Lucius Gregory. After many times receiving the help of Mr. Simmons, I am extremely grateful to him. In addition to being thankful, I also admire Mr. Simmons. He is truly a spiritual master. Today, on a free day not to work, I pay a visit to Mr. Simmons. Mr. Simmons was very welcoming to me, and he even made a nice pot of tea on the day of my arrival. I am increasingly interested in spiritual matters that Mr. Simmons knew. That's why I kept asking and listening to him tell about ghost stories and cases where Mr. Simmons met. Let's have a few more drinks. Drinking tea is very good for health. We talked while sipping a few cups of tea, and the surrounding atmosphere was highly harmonious and pleasant. Mr. Simmons told me all sorts of stories, and each one was of great interest to me. Oh, the stories you tell are really fascinating. I listen to them without getting bored. Can you tell me a few more stories, Mr. Simmons? Although the tea is very fragrant and delicious, I don't care about it as much as the stories of Mr. Simmons. I just want to hear it over and over again. I'll have a guest in a little while, and I'll tell you more when I have some free time. Mr. Simmons said he had a visitor in a moment, so he had to stop telling me the story. When he got the chance, he would tell me again. After he finished speaking, he took a few sips of his tea and looked towards the door. I was a little disappointed, but that's okay. I also followed Mr. Simmons looked out the door. I had just moved my eyes to the door when there was a knock on the door. It seems that Mr. Simmons had already guessed when the guests would arrive, and he timed it precisely. The knock on the door sounded for the second time, and Mr. Simmons got up and opened the door for the visitor. "Come on, Mr. Smith. I've just made a nice pot of tea. You've got a drink today." The person who came was a stout middle-aged man with a bald head, followed by another tall, muscular man, probably his bodyguard. Mr. Simmons invited them into the house, took a seat, and handed the chubby man a cup of tea. The bodyguard stood silently behind. "I came here today to ask you to help me with another troublesome matter." The man surnamed Smith seems to have known Mr. Simmons before that. He talked to Mr. Simmons while he glanced over at me and nodded politely. They didn't seem to mind having me here, so I sat there listening to their conversation. When I called my grandfather, I briefly told him that I had just bought a mansion in the Silver Lake area. "The trouble this time is because of the new mansion you bought. It is said that Mr. Smith is the owner of a rather large e-commerce company, and he is wealthy. A few days ago, he just bought a villa but did not expect trouble inside the mansion, so today, he came to ask for Mr. Simmons's help." Really, last time he just talked about buying a villa, but Mr. Simmons figured he might be in trouble. "There are ghosts inside the mansion I just bought. This has made me unable to eat well and sleep well for days. When I heard that the mansion was haunted, I was a bit surprised. I glanced at Mr. Simmons and of course, Mr. Simmons wasn't surprised at all. "Oh, is there a ghost in the mansion? Tell me a little bit about that. Last time I told my grandfather to buy that villa. It was fine for the first few days when I moved in. But at that time I still hadn't slept in that villa, until one night I finished cleaning and I slept there." "What happened?" Mr. Simmons took a sip of tea and listened to Mr. Smith tell stories about his mansion. I sat next to him and listened. Mr. Smith said that the villa was sold to him by a person for a relatively low price. He bought it and renovated it, cleaned it up, and moved in. On the first night he slept there, something terrible happened. Mr. Smith divorced his wife due to too busy at work. There was no one beside him in the last few years. He often slept alone at night, and he got used to it. But the first night he slept inside the mansion, Mr. Smith felt unusually cold. He didn't sleep well. kept turning around but still not comfortable at all. He said not only was it cold at that time, but he also felt an invisible pressure coming over him. After not being able to sleep for a while, he felt uncomfortable and decided to get out of bed and walk around a few times. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw something horrifying. At the top of his head at that time, there was a woman hanging, with a fierce face glaring down at him, looking very scary, not human at all. This scared him, and he cannot react or do anything, just lying there. Suddenly, the woman stretched out her hand with its sharp claws and rushed down to where Mr. Smith was lying. Only then did he come to his senses. But the female ghost quickly grabbed his neck and tried to squeeze him. He felt helpless to resist, and his throat was choked, making him almost stop breathing. Mr. Smith said that he thought he was going to die. Suddenly, he glanced at the necklace with the talisman that Mr. Simmons had given it to him at the table right next to it. He grabbed hold of the string and threw it at the witch. The talisman was indeed helpful. The female ghost screamed in fear and disappeared. As soon as the ghost disappeared, Mr. Simmons picked up the talisman and sat up. He rubbed his aching neck and nervously looked around the house. That night he did not dare to sleep again. The house was empty, and it was unknown where the ghost was hiding. Mr. Smith was afraid to sleep there but went to the hotel to sleep for a few days. When he was less busy, he immediately came here to find Mr. Simmons to ask for help. "I got it. Now let's go to that mansion. I will help you deal with it." Mr. Smith had just finished speaking. Then Mr. Simmons also got up and asked Master Smith to lead him to the mansion. "Gregory, could you come with me? Your eyes will help a bit." What about me?" "Oh yes. I was just about to leave when Mr. Simmons called me back and asked me to come along." I was a bit surprised but also thrilled. I have long wanted to experience more ghost stories with Mr. Simmons already. We went out of Mr. Simmons's place and sat inside Mr. Smith's luxury car. The bodyguard cum driver earlier workers spiraling ride on the way to Silver Lake, where the mansion of Mr. Smith. The car drove fast for more than 20 minutes when we reached the villa. The villa that Mr. Smith recently bought is a huge villa with a spacious garden. "Mr. Simmons, young man, just the two of you in." Mr. Smith politely invited Mr. Simmons and me to go inside the mansion. To be honest, the money to buy this villa should be enough for me to live for several lifetimes. After entering the gate, we passed through the garden and entered the mansion. Master Smith opened the door. Mr. Simmons and I entered first. Mr. Smith walked behind us. Mr. Simmons turned off the lights inside the mansion, leaving only a dim light enough to see. As soon as he turned off the light, I immediately felt a rush of cold air. "Mr. Simmons, do you feel anything? Why is it so cold?" Master Smith was scared. Trembling asked Mr. Simmons. He didn't even dare to look around. "Open your glasses and look." Mr. Simmons did not answer Mr. Smith, but turned to the back and told me to take off my glasses and look. I think Mr. Simmons saw that ghost, but he must have given me a chance to use my abilities. I then listened to Mr. Simmons, took off my glasses, and looked up around the mansion. Finally, I found that ghost in a corner above the ceiling. It was a female ghost, dressed in white, floating in the air. The female ghost has a fierce face and staring down at us, but strangely it didn't dare to do anything. I guess maybe it's because she's afraid of Mr. Simmons. "You've seen her, haven't you? I will talk to her." "Can we talk? Why don't you go where you need to go and stop making trouble here?" Although I guess Mr. Simmons had seen the ghost, but I didn't expect him to be able to communicate with it. He ignored my question and raised his head to communicate with the female ghost. "The owner of this house killed me. I want to get revenge. That female ghost heard Mr. when Simmons asked that, she shouted fiercely. Her face was filled with hatred. I want to get revenge. Let me avenge that mortal. She was very fierce. But perhaps because there is Mr. Simmons is here so she can't do anything. Mr. Simmons asks her to tell her story. Although she was outraged, according to Mr. Simmons, she tells us what happened. She is a university student. About a little over 2 months ago, the house owner flirted with her and brought her home. Because she was blinded by money, she followed him to this mansion. At first, when he first met her, he was a very gentle person, but when he brought her back to the mansion, he immediately revealed a different outfit. She said that the man kept her under house arrest and forbade her to contact the outside world. Every time he drank alcohol, he would abuse her. On one occasion, when he was drunk, he strangled her to death. When I heard this, I also felt a surge of anger in my chest, and my mind exploded with anger. I turned my head to stare at Mr. Smith. No, it's not me. God, this house I bought from someone else. So, can you tell me where the former owner of this house is? It turns out it was all just a misunderstanding. The person who killed the girl was another person, the former owner of this mansion, not Mr. Smith. Mr. Simmons heard that and inquired about the man's whereabouts. I will tell you all I know about it. The former owner of this house a few weeks ago was arrested and sentenced to death for corrupting a huge amount of money. Have you heard? That guy has already been punished. The girl's murderer has already been executed for corruption. Mr. Simmons also looked up and said to the girl, I do not believe. You want to deceive me, right? I have this proof. Look, the newspaper is full of news. The ghost screamed that she didn't believe what Mr. Smith said. Mr. Smith took out his phone and showed her a news article on the subject of the death sentence. I also read that news. It turns out that was the name. He was sentenced to death and executed 3 days ago for corruption. When the ghost girl read the news, she suddenly froze, stared at the phone with wide eyes. Then 2 blood tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. Her face also gradually softened, no more fierce as before. She slowly fell from the ceiling and landed on the ground, facing us. Died. He's dead. So what should I do? I don't know what to do anymore. The female ghost now looks very pitiful. She kept repeating that the guy was dead and she didn't know what to do. I'll help you go to where you belong. Mr. Simmons hears this and tells the ghost that he will help her, take her where she should go. After finishing his speech, Mr. Simmons told me to go out and get in what he was carrying from the car. What he brought with him was a sword made of peach wood and an earthen pot. I brought it in and put the pot on the ground and gave the sword to Mr. Simmons. Mr. Smith had already left. Mr. Simmons took the wooden sword, pointed it at the girl, and muttered something in his mouth. The sword was now emitting light. Open. After reading the incantations, Mr. Simmons shouted and stabbed the earthen pot with his sword. The sword pierced a hole in the earthen pot lying below. Next, I saw a strange sight. Around the hole pierced by the sword was covered with black smoke, and I could faintly hear the wailing inside. It seems that the hole in the pot has connected to the hell deep below. Once again, I have another look at Mr. Simmons. That's incredible. Just as I was still in awe, the corner of my eye caught a glimpse of the female ghost turning into a puff of smoke and being sucked into that black hole. Help me clean up and put these things away. As soon as the ghost disappeared, the black smoke around the hole in the earthen pot and those miserable cries also vanished. I walked over to the earthen pot and carefully picked it up. Follow what Mr. Simmons said. I watched it for a moment. Now it is just a broken earthen pot, nothing special. I looked at it for a while and did not see anything. Then I cleaned up and gathered my things, and followed Mr. Simmons out. When everything was done, Mr. Smith repeatedly thanked Mr. Simmons and told the driver to take us home carefully. At this point, I put on my glasses. On the way, I asked in a low voice about what had just happened, about that ghost. Why did that ghost mistakenly mistake the person who killed her as Mr. Smith? It seems that the female ghost is furious and always wants to take revenge, but it is strange why it attacked Mr. Smith by mistake. I am inquisitive. For that ghost, her only sense of existence is to kill the person who harmed her. She can't even remember what that person looked like, but she still remembers being harmed and must revenge. So that's why she was so flustered when she heard that guy was punished. What a pitiful ghost indeed. Alas, it's pitiful that people can't let go of their hatred. Even after forgetting the enemy's appearance, they still can't forget. Mr. Simmons looked out the window and groaned. From the attitude of Mr. Simmons, I guess he must have seen and experienced many stories in his life. I respect him more and more.